Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Watching the Boxes Fantasy Basketball Podcast, hosted by #basketball.com, your home for the very best fantasy basketball tools on the entire internet. Go check them out at #basketball.com. I'm your host, Mike Catron, and joining me, as always, all of your Patreon, all those Patreon subscribers out there, all those donations that came in to make my co-host afford some lozenges, some cough drops. He's feeling a lot better. You nursed him back to health with your funds. My co-host Tyler Watts. What's up, Tyler?
Oh, I just had to make you think of maybe I wasn't here, Mike. I had to.
You passed on.
I had to play the game. It just seemed like too much fun.
Yeah, that would have been a cold move, Tyler. People were worried about your health. People were tweeting like, "Where is Tyler? Okay? Do we need to send him medicine?" Like, people were worried about you, and you can't worry. Don't worry me either. Like, I can't. No one wants to hear me talk to myself for 5 hours a week.
Well, someone might. You never know.
Yeah. Well, I feel bad for those people. But no, Tyler's back. We are back. And hopefully we will be able to bring you a ton of content over the holiday weeks coming up here. Right now, though, it is week 10, kind of the week before Christmas.
Oh, we got to play a game before this starts because this is fun. This is fun.
We got a lot to talk about, Tyler.
That's okay. This won't take that long. You'll fail at this very early.
Oh, okay. But I can't wait to fail at this game that you made up for me to probably purposely fail. Like that doesn't seem terribly fair. You know, I liked you better when you were a little sicker, Tyler. I'll give you that.
Okay, come on now. This is important, so we got to get to this.
Okay.
So our man Joey at #basketball has a new set of projections.
That is true.
I'm sure you're aware of this, Michael. And they basically use a lot of short-term statistics from basically the last month and the last 2 weeks to determine what players' value is going to be moving forward. So I would like you to take a stab at the top 10 players in fantasy basketball using these projections. We'll see how many you can get, Mike.
Okay, I have not checked this out. This is a brand new feature on #basketball.com where they're doing short-term projections, and I love the idea. I can't wait to go check this out. But I've not seen this, so this is not like inside baseball kind of stuff. I'm not. I have no idea what is actually up there. So I'm going to start out with, I think, some people who are fairly obvious at being really, really good coming up. Anthony Davis.
Number one, you got it.
He's really good. He's good at basketball. He's good at fantasy basketball. He's probably a little unfair almost. And I think this guy is also unfair, especially when he's hot and he's healthy, and he is back healthy and looking great. Steph Curry.
Number three.
Oh, number three. Interesting. So someone is allegedly going to be hotter than Steph Curry. I'm going to assume it is a 9-cat ranking. I don't know that. Kawhi Leonard.
I adjusted 0 settings on this.
Okay.
So he is number 6.
Okay. Joel Embiid. I'm going to go down and see if I can get some of these.
Number 9.
Okay.
4 for 4, though. That's pretty good.
4 for 4. You know, that is not bad. I'm going to go with Kevin Durant and James Harden.
Okay. Number 2 and number 4.
Paul George.
Number 5.
Karl Anthony Towns and Giannis.
Number 7 and number 10.
Okay.
Here's the hard one.
Missing?
Number 8. Here's the hard one. Here's the one I wouldn't have gotten.
Oh, okay. So I'm pretty satisfied with going 9 out of 10 if I don't get this one. I'm gonna go with one of the greatest players of all time, Steamin' Willie Barton, coming off just wide open. Everybody's injured on the Nuggets. He's gonna come in off his injury and he's gonna be dropping like 30 points a game.
No, but this is a personal favorite player of mine.
Oh, now that helps a little bit. I know you love Marcus Gasol. I don't think it's him though. Nikolai Jokic.
Well, you're right with half of that, but the
There's
Jokic
no
part,
way Vujovic is considered a top 10. Is he a top 10 player?
number 8,
Wow. You know
shooting.
what? Let me go check this out. Let me go check out the rankings here. Well, when you look at the season-long rankings in 9-cat, Vujovic is the 7th ranked player in 9-cat roto leagues.
Yeah, I mean, averaging almost a steal and a block a game, 4 assists, 12.6 rebounds, 22 points, amazing percentages, not turning the ball over.
You know, I knew he was in the top like 20. I think he was hovering in that 15 spot for a while, but he's on a tear here, and I feel like that's a little under the radar.
I'm just reciting the facts.
Would you give him I mean, short-term wise, sounds like he's, a top 10 a look, but sell high on Vujovic?
So I made this case last week in the sense that I said, I don't think you sell high on Vucevic. I think you still buy low on Vucevic because so many people are thinking Vucevic is outside, kind of that top 30, 40 value. And I think he's easily going to produce that. I mean, we talked about my preseason prediction of him being a top 35 player. And I think he would have to be real bad for that not to come true.
You're a little ahead of schedule with the top 35 player. Like, that's not just a great insight. You overachieved by just a little bit.
Yeah. So all my preseason predictions for the most part looking fairly good.
Tyler, you had a good preseason. You're having a very good season in our listener leagues. Shout out to the Patreon subscribers out there who are in those listener leagues, and for the ones who have signed up to get into our mid-season draft, which is going to be kicking off like in the next few days, because it's going to be a slow draft. And we're going to do a mid-season. I screwed up, and I need a redraft. And guess what? Vujovic might be a first-round player in this redraft. Like, I don't know if I would do Vujovic in the first round, but I think he might go in the first round.
It'll be real interesting to see where players like him and Drew Holiday, get picked. Will they surpass some of the LeBron James and Damian Lillards, or, will we go more chalk than we thought in the preseason? So that'll be pretty interesting.
Yeah, I am. I'm actually really looking forward to this. I haven't done a midseason draft in a very, very long time. I don't know if Jalen Rose might have been in the league the last time I did a midseason draft. But I want to give a special shout out to our new subscriber, Luke Brownfield. Shout out to you, Luke, for joining. You will be joining us in the midseason. I have terrible teams right now, and I need something to live for. Therefore, I'm going to join a mid-season draft, annual listener league draft. I think I haven't settled on a name yet, but that one's probably pretty close. I think that's it.
I'm enjoying it.
So Luke, shout out to you. We will be getting in touch with you to make sure you get into this league, along with the people who are already subscribers. If you want to join this league, everybody, all you listeners out there, subscribe to patreon.com/watchingtheboxes. There will be a prize for the winner. Tyler might come to your house and make give you a visit and hang out with you for the day. Maybe I'll fly you guys to Chicago. We can go to a Bulls playoff game. See how that works, everybody? Like, there's no playoff game to come to, so you're not getting that prize. So we'll see. We don't know what the prize is yet. We don't know what that prize is yet.
I thought maybe you were going to say I'll bring you to a playoff game in like 2030.
Yeah. Once the Bulls have kind of fire Garpax in like late 2028, and then we kind of get lucky in the draft for a few years, and then by 2032, I think we can get like one of those, like maybe the 6th seed, 7th seed.
Sounds logical.
It's looking that good here in Chicago, but everyone's high on the Chicago Bears playoff bandwagon, and no one is paying attention to the Bulls. So goes a city with so many sports teams that you can just kind of people can kind of tune out. But I will be for sure going to a Bulls game to see the great Derrick Rose play the United Center again when they played the Minnesota Timberwolves here around the Christmas season. But Tyler, there is a lot of fantasy news going on. Plus, we got to get to week 10. So I want to get right to one of the weirder trades Like the timing is weird, the people involved are weird, and then like the is it going to happen? Is it not going to happen? Oh, is this a fantasy basketball trade where I'm like, which Morai twin am I trading? Who I thought you said you're giving me Markeith. Is Marcus like what was going on here in this trade of Trevor Ariza to Washington, Kelly Oubre Jr., who I do like, and I went out there on Twitter and said, "Hey, everybody, go pick up Kelly Oubre Jr. going to the Phoenix Suns." I think also, probably give Trevor Ariza a flyer as well. And then, am I picking up Dylan Brooks or Marshawn Brooks? Who ended up in this trade?
So neither ended up in the trade, and that was what was crazy. Was apparently they didn't talk to the Grizzlies, even though the Grizzlies were in the trade. and so they were confused on which Brooks was actually in the trade, and they thought it was Dylan Brooks, and the Grizzlies thought it was Marshawn Brooks, and I'm still not sure which Brooks was supposed to be in the trade. So that kind of held the trade up, and then the crazier part was then the two teams just decided, let's do the trade anyways without Memphis.
Yeah, like this is like one of the weirdest story like plot lines where it was like Woj was like, this trade's gonna happen, and then he's like, never mind. They thought it was Dylan Brooks, and then Memphis was like, we didn't really agree to any of this crap. What the hell are you guys talking about? So I can't believe it still went down. That's what I'm surprised.
I mean, the trade itself didn't really surprise me. I mean, the Wizards needed to make a move just in the sense that they see themselves as a playoff team and they weren't super playing like a playoff contender. So they traded 2 rotation pieces for 1, though, which didn't make a ton of sense. But, I mean, Trevor Ariza is going to give them good defense and going to be a role player, which I don't know. Sometimes Kelly Oubre didn't seem like he wanted to be a role player. He seems to think like he wants to be a little more than that. And, I mean, that's not really going to happen in Phoenix either. So that'll be interesting to see. The whole trade was just interesting. The whole Austin Rivers and Washington thing, that didn't work out very well. And now he's going to play for the Suns too. So he's going to get thrown in that point guard mix, you got to think, with Elie Okobo and Anthony Melton. So
yeah, I think that's kind of the under the radar. Like I like Kelly Oubre's fantasy basketball game. I'm willing to take a flyer on Kelly Oubre because I think if he does get the minutes, he's actually been performing pretty well. Even in kind of limited minutes in Washington. So like
he could not have gone to a more crowded situation for a forward though, in the sense that we've been saying all season, like this team has too many forwards, and then they just trade Trevor Ariza for this guy who plays Trevor Ariza's positions. I mean,
like I feel like, well, we say this all the time, right? Oh, if Phoenix would just play as young guys, like this would make a lot of sense because they're terrible. And now they have I think actually a pretty good young forward with Kelly Oubre, and I think hopefully they give him a shot. But maybe the real fantasy value here is Austin Rivers.
Yeah, I mean, is Austin Rivers a point guard? Are they going to be willing to play Devin Booker as a point guard? Like, there's a lot of questions with the Suns team, and not ones we're super going to be able to answer. I honestly think both players, given that they play 30 minutes, would be somewhat standardly relevant, at least for streaming. But I don't know that I can safely say either one's even going to play 20 minutes at this point. I mean, would you be surprised if they played – I mean, maybe they put Kelly Oubre in that Jamal Crawford like 20 to 25 minute a game role. I don't really know what the Suns are doing, and the sad part is I don't know if the Suns know what the Suns are doing.
Yeah, they certainly do not know what they're doing. But I think if I have to choose Austin Rivers is probably more likely to get more minutes because the guard situation there is a big fat question mark, and he at least occasionally plays relevant NBA style basketball. But I like Kelly Oubre's upside more and the potential he could play decent minutes. I like that a lot more than I like Austin Rivers' fantasy basketball game, even though it's more likely Austin Rivers gets a little bit more minutes. So I know we always say minutes are the most important stat. I'd rather take a flyer on Oubre than Austin Rivers in that situation.
Oh, I'm 100% with you, and it'll be interesting to see what happens on Monday against the Knicks and kind of the rest of this week, and who they decide to play. And we'll get a lot more information from that.
Well, on the flip side of that, with the Washington and Ariza arriving in Washington, he obviously takes Kelly Oubre's kind of spot up pretty just seamlessly. But Otto Porter is going in for an MRI. That doesn't sound very good. Would you want to take a flyer on Trevor Ariza, considering we might not have Otto Porter? Kelly Oubre's already gone, and Otto Porter might be just out for a bit, depending on how this MRI comes back pretty soon.
Yeah, I mean, I'm fine with taking a flyer on Ariza. We've seen plenty of seasons where Ariza's been a top 50 player. That doesn't mean that he will be a top 50 player going forward, obviously. But I think he's going to get big minutes as long as Otto Porter's out, and there's no guarantee that Otto Porter's coming back anytime soon.
Yeah, I don't know what's going on with Otto Porter there. But going in for MRI just doesn't – that sounds pretty bad. And even if that MRI comes back just fine for Otto Porter, I do think they'll probably rest him at least, probably a week or so. I mean,
it's looking like a bone bruise, and we've seen some guys miss, 2 or 3 games with one of those, and then we saw that one a couple of years ago with Cody Zeller where he missed like a month and a half, 2 months.
Yeah, that was like a really weird one where we're like, when is Cody Zeller going to come back, guys? Like, when is this going to happen? And he never did. He's actually feels like he's in a Will Barton situation when it's like, oh yeah, Will Barton's going to be back in like 1 or 2 games, and that was like a month ago.
Yeah, so I mean, those are really tricky, and it's hard to say. And I think a lot of it's just pain tolerance, and some guys just they know it just hurts. It hurts that bad. So, and I mean, I don't know. It's hard to say with Otto Porter what that situation is going to look like.
Yeah, I we'll have to wait and see, and we will definitely update everybody on that. Zach LaVine also out for some testing with an ankle injury. I think that one should probably be pretty fine, but that does give a bump to our good friend Larry Markkinen, who is the best, and I love him, and he's the greatest modern Bull other than Wendell Carter Jr., future MVP of the league. Like I said, in 2032, that's when Wendell Carter will be MVP. But yeah, I'm not too worried about Zach LaVine being out. We got a Jonas Valanciunas injury. It looks like he's going to be out for a couple weeks, maybe even a month. So what do you want to do in Toronto with this Valanciunas injury?
Well, obviously, it gives a little more value to our man Serge Ibaka and fantasy basketball's man Pascal Siakam. I think. I don't know that either one of those two. I mean, obviously, Serge Ibaka has shown us some things in the past, and it's great that he's getting a few more minutes.
He's having a great season.
This Pascal Siakam thing, man, it's still been one of the more perplexing things for me, how he's just making everything, and he went from a 26% shooter for his career to now he's 36%. Yeah, I mean, he's just been great too, and you got to think he's probably going to get a few more minutes, especially as good as he's been playing. So both those guys get a little bit of a boost, though they're mostly owned in even standard leagues.
Yeah, huge bump to both of those guys, and I really like Ibaka this year. I think he's kind of shown that this little kind of increase in productivity is sustainable, and so I'm kind of confident in either trying to acquire him or keeping him right now. I don't think his production dips too far off of where it has been this season. Obviously, if you can upgrade, always sell high if you can. But Ibaka, I like moving forward just in general. Was there any other injuries that you wanted to get off your chest, Tyler? Now that you're back healthy.
No, not that I can think of. We're getting to that point in the season, though. This can kind of maybe bleed right into our next discussion. The regular season's about half over, especially after this. I mean, this is already week 10 coming up. So the regular season for your fantasy leagues is reaching a point where if you're at the bottom, you got to make a move. And
Yeah, like
some people are missing that boat. Like they're just like, oh, there's so much of the season left, which is true, but most regular seasons end somewhere around week 20, and Monday starts week 10. So if you're dead last in your standings, you better be looking for a way to make it change. And if you have a lot of injuries right now, you don't want to fall too far behind. So maybe you got to make a trade. Like now's the time to really start buckling down and looking at things and trying to win every single week, because there's not that many more weeks to make it up.
Yeah, and I think that's kind of the thing a lot of people kind of new to fantasy basketball overlook is figuring out when their playoffs start. Every league is different. There is no standardized. I play Roto. I play till the last game of the last game matters. And I've been in leagues where the last game has decided championships. I've seen people I've seen missed free throws decide who gets money and who doesn't in the final game of the season. And that's what makes Roto, when Roto is competitive, incredibly fun. All you head-to-head cats out there, I get why you love the allure of fighting for your playoff spot, getting the playoff spot, and anything can happen after that, right? But a lot of people kind of get rid of the end of the year weeks, those last few weeks where great players are sitting out and like teams have already locked up their playoff seat. And that means you have to be kind of aware that like playoffs are going to be starting at like the beginning of March for a lot of people, maybe the end of February for others. And Tyler's right. If you're at the bottom of your league right now, it's time to take a risk. It's time to go all in, maneuver your team around, make some moves. And this is probably I don't know if he's like personally attacking me right now in our boring listener league draft, because I am currently in 13th out of 16th place in that league. I'm very embarrassed by my performance here. So I don't know if Tyler, you're telling me to take a risk in that league. Is that what's going on here?
No slight on anyone.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that sounds like an answer if you were talking shit to me. So going into week 10, Tyler, which is the week before the best week of basketball, and a lot of people in the regular unfancy world start paying attention to basketball on Christmas Day. I'm excited to watch about 14 hours of straight basketball and not talk to any of my friends or family at all on what is supposed to be a very nice, loving, family-oriented holiday. I can't wait for that. That is my personal holiday, is to just sequester myself in front of a television for 13 hours of great basketball. But that is next week, and that makes this week a little bit different, and next week very strange. And when you look at the advanced schedule that you can check out at #basketball.com, you have a huge Sunday. 12 games being played on Wednesday, 10 games being played on Friday, 11 games being played on Sunday. Kind of a weird week where there are 3 days with double-digit games being played, and then 0 games being played on Monday, and of course, Christmas Day, the 5-game all-day marathon. So that makes streaming into next week a lot harder. And it also makes streaming this week very strange too, because on Thursday there's only 2 games being played. So Tyler, how should we approach week 10?
Yeah, so I mean, for daily leagues, you mentioned it, things get a little hairier. So what I might do to maximize my games for this week is I might target just a Dallas Maverick player or a Houston Rockets player right at the beginning of the week and just hold that player for the week, especially if I have 2 spots where I like to stream. And the theory there is I probably get 3 games out of that player, and that's going to give me some extra run from that particular person. And then I try to look at some of these lighter days and I just pick a guy, each day that I think is the best one available. Because, I mean, you can see when looking through the back-to-backs and pseudo back-to-backs, like there's just not that many teams and there's just not that many players available to pick up. So I'm probably going to look for someone like Wesley Matthews or JJ Barea if he's healthy, and just pick that person up and hold him for the whole week, and then on Monday I take the best player available on my waiver wire, whatever's going to help me win the most categories for that week. For weekly leagues, I think it's worth saying that 19 teams play 4 times. There's 9 teams that play 3 games, and then the Denver Nuggets have just 2 games. We talk about the Nuggets having a lot of fantasy value, but it's going to be really hard to start any of those players, save for Nikola Jokic, especially in standard leagues, just in the sense that, okay, Jamal Murray goes off for 2 20-point games. He gives you 40 points. Well, a guy scoring 10 points a game gives you 40 points if they're playing 4 times. So it's going to be very difficult to start any Nugget that's not named Nikola Jokic, I think.
Yeah, 2 games is really, really hard to come by. All you weekly, I get the weekly lock. I understand that. I think it does make things very different when you approach how you are prepping for your week. Nuggets not looking good. Dallas basically playing on all the off days, Tuesday, Thursday, where there's only 2 games being played, and Saturday along with Sunday. So they got a back-to-back there. All road games for the Dallas Mavericks. So that's kind of a tough trip for them.
That actually might help them in the sense that they have not been very good at all on the road this season. So some of those players who don't normally play some bigger minutes might get a few extra minutes, and that's a lot of times good for fantasy. So you could look at it that way too.
Well, that's a fair point. And you do have a couple Dallas Mavericks here in your top 10 going into week 10. Guys, you should be picking up off the waiver wire. These are all guys who are under 50% owned, rostered in your normal Yahoo leagues. A couple of these guys on this list, like Shea Gilgeous-Alexander, still surprised he's under 50. Wes Matthews, technically, somehow, I'm really surprised by that too. I know Wes Matthews is, fine, but under 50% owned is a little bit shocking. And then one of those guys who sneakily might get very good minutes if the Dallas Mavericks are getting blown out, JJ Barea. And I like that one. He's always underrated. He's only owned in 16% of leagues, and 5.4 assists per game. Hard to find that anywhere.
Yeah, and Barea is kind of a microwave scorer too, in the sense that he can come in and just get buckets. And so there might be a game this week where the Mavericks are trailing by a little bit, and they ask him to come in and just attack the basket, and he might even get you a game where he scores, 15, 20 points. So anything's possible with Barea. And that's another reason I like to stream him is you're going to get pretty good assists, and you also might get a game where he scores 15, 20 points, which can be really helpful.
Yeah, I would actually watch like a 30 for 30 on JJ Barea's like basketball career. He is 34 years old. I did not know that.
So during the Mavericks game, I can't tell you which one because I've seen pretty much all of them. They were talking about like who's the best athlete, pure athlete in the NBA. And they were talking about like some scouts would say that JJ Barea is literally one of the best athletes in the NBA, especially to be doing what he's doing at age 34 at his height and his size. It is really, really amazing.
Yeah, he is listed at 6 foot, but that's not true at all. He's definitely like maybe 5'9".
I was just gonna say he's like 5'8".
Maybe 5'10". Yeah, like at best, he is like 5'10". He might be 5'8". And that's a really good point. Like at 34, like this is something that's almost like Vince Carter-esque of playing until 40. Now, Vince Carter, obviously one of the best athletes of all time, still playing, and maybe we shouldn't compare the two of those guys considering all the stuff that they do. But you should start looking at him in that kind of eye because he's still very quick. JJ Barea has to work definitely harder than everyone else to get his points and to stay on the floor and just to stay in front of people. And so, yeah, I never would have thought like, hey, probably one of the most athletic players in the league, JJ Barea, but pretty kind of an astute observation.
Yeah, I just thought that was really interesting. It's not something you think about, and he's not like the first person that springs to mind when you think about that topic. So,
yeah, I always kind of give JJ Barea props because I think I own him or keep him rostered or stream him in almost every one of my standard leagues that I'm in. at some point in the season over the last like 6 or 7 years. He's just a name that nobody cares about and is always just available. So like he should get like a fantasy lifetime achievement award. We should do fantasy lifetime achievement awards. And I think Barea, like Jason Terry and JJ Barea, weirdly both former or current Mavericks players. I would say both of those guys deserve a lifetime achievement award of being like under the radar, but always great at fantasy.
Did you hear Terry say he'd only come back to play for 3 teams?
No, I didn't. I would like to see him come back. That would be fun. It would be an interesting wrinkle. I assume the Mavs are one.
Yes. Name the other 2. Go.
The New York Knicks.
No.
Yeah, it's definitely not them. I would guess the Lakers and Toronto?
Golden State. The Lakers State with the other 2.
Okay, one of those kind of. All right, whatever. If he wants to chase, that's fine with me.
He said that was basically it, right? I'm coming back to chase a ring, or I'll play for the Mavericks.
That's a high praise for the Mavericks. That's a great run franchise, a great organization, and it makes me very, very sad inside being a Bulls fan and seeing the front office burn. I liked a tweet I saw about maybe we should have put that Fire Garpax billboard not out in front of the United Center, but out in front of Comiskey, which is what I'm going to call where the White Sox play. I'm not going to call it by whatever corporation happens to own the damn stadium, because that's the only way Reinsdorf would actually see the poster, is because since he's always at the White Sox games, it's a very depressing time as a Bulls fan. And I don't want this to turn into Mike mourns the Bulls for the next 5 hours. So Tyler, is there any kind of back-to-backs that we should pay attention to? You already mentioned the Dallas Mavericks, and you've already mentioned, I think the Clippers. We did talk about the Clippers a little bit. Is there any other teams that we should be like kind of looking directly at? The Rockets, the Heat?
Yeah, the Rockets are probably the one, and they don't really have a great streaming option other than PJ Tucker, who, he's going to get rebounds, he's going to steal the ball, he's going to help you in 3-pointers. Like, if you don't need those categories, he's no help to you because he doesn't really do anything other than that. But in those 3 categories, he can be a game changer, especially in a 4-game week, or, when you can stream him in for 3 games, which is what you should be able to do this week. You're probably looking at, he's going to average over a steal a game. He's going to hit you pretty close to 2 3-pointers a game. He's going to get you like 6 rebounds. That's enough to sway those 3 categories for sure.
Yeah, I like that. I like that pickup a lot. Don't pick him up if you're in the redraft league and listening to this. Do not do that. Do not pick him up. The redraft league's a little bit bigger, so he's probably already owned. Jay Crowder, a good pickup here, looking a week ahead to week 11. Probably the best guy who is playing in one of the premier games that's still under 50% owned, that you could actually watch on Christmas Day and get that extra game in if you pick him up late this week in week 10, because the Utah Jazz do have a game on Saturday. So there's very few teams and obviously players that you can take advantage of that extra start for next week. But since no one's playing on Monday and so few teams are playing on Tuesday, would you actually say it is advantageous to make sure you use your final pickup this week to get that extra start next week, because next week will be so tightly compact? Or since next week will be so tightly compact, you're pretty much going to max out your roster anyway?
Well, I mean, it all depends, and a lot of it depends on your team. I mean, we only really see 2 games with double-digit games next week, and then Saturday has 9, so you might not be able to fit anybody in there. Now, granted, it's only a 6-game week, but I mean, we look at some of these teams for week 11, and obviously the Pacers and the Grizzlies only played twice, but there's only 2 teams playing 4 games too. So, I mean, like having Lakers and Blazers is a huge advantage in week 11. So maybe if you've already got your week sewn up, the best strategy would be to pick up a guy playing for the Lakers or the Blazers, which I understand that they're not fantastic streaming options, but they play Tuesday, they play Thursday, they play Sunday, all 3 light schedule games, and the Blazers actually play all 4 light schedule days. The Blazers play on Saturday, so Portland would really be, you know what I mean? Portland would be the team, and then obviously the Lakers secondarily, playing on Friday with 10 games. It's a little bit worse, but not that much worse. So maybe that's the way you want to pivot if you've already got the week 1, and if you need to win this week, maybe you go all in to win this week, and you don't really care about streaming for next week. It all just depends on how things fall, I think.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I think there's going to be this is the kind of the period of the season I feel where patterns have emerged, and now the secondary kind of like players, the guys who move teams, we already saw a trade, right? But all these guys that kind of come out of the woodwork on these teams that are basically bad. And what's weird is none of the teams in the West are bad other than the Suns. So, pay attention there. But it's like when teams are kind of evaluating and going, hey, we're terrible. We should kind of maneuver our rotations and figure something out. Same with what you should be doing with your fantasy team. It's kind of a very similar time. Jabari Parker moving out of the rotation. Great for people who are Bulls fans. Horrible for people who own Jabari Parker. That is I think he should be dropped basically in all standard leagues because of that situation. It sounds like he might get though if he gets traded, I don't know what his role would be. Like if he can't make it on the Bulls, where's he going to make it?
Well, I mean, some team might want him as just a microwave scorer off the bench, and a lot of it with the Bulls is just they want to play those young forwards, right? They don't want to play no defense Jabari, who's just trying to get buckets, but some teams need buckets, man.
That's true. He could find a place somewhere. Probably worth a first-round pick, like a high first-round, unprotected first-round pick. If you are GM listening to this podcast, take my advice. He's probably worth a high, unprotected first-round pick. At the very least. At the very least, I think you could swindle the Bulls into that.
So you asked me for a team. I think I found one in about 5 seconds of looking. And that would be, if this team thinks they're competing for a playoff spot, the Detroit Pistons.
Oh, interesting. The Detroit Pistons.
I mean, like, their forwards are playing off the bench are guys like Henry Ellison and John Lure and Glenn Robinson III, right? Like, their bench is not great. They could insert him as kind of a 6-man. Tell him to get buckets off the bench. It's just an idea. I mean, I just looked at it for about 5 seconds.
All right. I mean, that's not the worst idea at all. I don't know what asset the Bulls would get back other than a draft pick. Then again, I don't know what asset Detroit would be willing to give up for the opportunity to pay.
Well, that's what probably is going to happen. He's probably going to get bought out, and then he's going to go to another team. I mean, at this point, like, no one's going to trade for that $20 million contract. Like, no one has that kind of money.
Yeah. Kind of an insane move to go, we don't really want this guy on the team. Let's bench him to reduce his value even more and then try to trade him. Really, really intelligent moves going on in Chicago's front office. I would expect a trade of Jabari Parker or a buyout, like Tyler was saying. So that is why I would drop Jabari in probably any league not any league, the deeper leagues. I think he's worth keeping around, but I'd probably get rid of him in all standard leagues.
Yeah, I'm with you there.
Going ahead to week 10, is there anything else we need to know before we wrap this up?
I don't really think so. I mean, it's kind of an odd week, and there's not a whole lot of streaming to be done this week, unfortunately, with the fact that so many teams are playing 4 times and there's so many heavy scheduled days and what that has to do with the Christmas holiday coming up. We'll throw out one guy who's just been playing over his head, but if you're looking for someone to add for this week that might help you, would be JaMychal Green. I mean, he's not playing a ton of minutes, but he's getting you a steal. He's getting you half a block. He's getting you 6.8 rebounds and about 12 points. That's some pretty big help in 4 categories there. The steals and the blocks probably aren't going to keep around, especially in 23 minutes a game. But if you're looking for somebody who's probably not that owned and maybe you need some help, there's a guy. And then the secondary option there would be Kevon Looney, who's only 5% owned. If you look just at the month of December, his stats look pretty enticing. And as long as DeMarcus Cousins stays out, he should get rebounds. He should get you some pretty decent assists and blocks in about 25 minutes a game on the Warriors. So there's kind of 2 guys if you're really searching deep for someone to pick up this week.
Yeah, I like Looney there. I think that's a pretty good pick. The upcoming break will help with all these kind of a lot of nagging injuries around the league. Like I said, Zach LaVine, Taurean Prince, Nico Mirotic, Taj Gibson is actually away on personal reasons. So actually, you could look at maybe Sarge might get some extra minutes there. So like, do take a look at that. Kyle Lowry's been like mysteriously kind of just questionable. Like, I don't know if he's going to be playing and stuff like that. So hopefully that the break, even though it's a short break, gets people a little bit healthier.
Did you see your boy Will Barton got hurt on Sunday evening?
Yeah, I'm very aware of Will Barton's medical problems. I was kind of hoping he would give me a boost in a few of my leagues, and
he's out for all of Week 10.
Yeah, he's out once again.
Do not start him if your league has not locked yet.
Yeah, that's not great. Speaking of, you mentioned Boogie Cousins. This is probably going to be half of what is talked about on Christmas Day. Boogie Cousins return. He's going to go play with the G League. Sounds like he could be back in January. Would you throw, if you are trying to get out of the basement, would you throw a package at Boogie Cousins just to take that risk? If you're basically like, you're not going to make the playoffs unless something happens, would you say that is the ultimate risk reward trade, is to try to get Boogie Cousins like right now?
Yeah, so you're basically going to have to move. What am I going to have to move, I guess, is the question, right? Like, if I'm going to give up a top 50 player for Cousins, I don't think that's a great deal. Now, if you're telling me I could give up someone like Will Barton or maybe another player that's a little bit injured, or maybe I give up like Markieff Morris and Justice Winslow and can get Cousins, like, sure.
Yeah. I don't think that's going to do it. I think you're going to have to be like, well, Jeremy Lamb has been having a decent season, and maybe him and
here's the other thing.
Him and like an Enes Kanter type player.
That's not a great move to make if you're down, I don't think, in this sense. Like, so if you look at Basketball Monster, they don't have him returning till January 11th. Now, obviously, that's not set in stone by any means, but that's a whole nother month to get zero production. Like, for me, the type of players I'm looking to trade for are guys playing right now, have the opportunity to play maybe a little bit more, and maybe just some guys who are underperforming or some guys who are overperforming that you hope maybe this guy can just keep it up. We look at Zach LaVine from the beginning of the season, right? Like, we kept saying, oh, there's no way he's going to keep scoring like this. There's no way he's going to keep scoring like this. And scoring has gone back down in recent games, and now he's hurt. But, like, those are the type of guys I'd be probably trying to acquire and just be like, hey, man, maybe this guy can keep it up, because whoever I got clearly ain't doing it. Another guy to trade for, maybe someone like Lou Williams. Like, we've seen Lou Williams go on stretches where he gets super hot and he's like a top 20 player. You got to go for more of those like hot and cold options, if you ask me. Someone who's playing right now, and obviously Lou Williams is hurt too, so don't trade for him. But I want somebody who's playing, who's shown the ability at a stretch throughout their career that they've really, really gotten hot and played really, really well. That's what I'd be looking for if it's me personally.
It's good philosophy. Guys out there, if you are looking for more advice from myself and Tyler if you are in a bad predicament with your current league, or you just want to start over. Like I said, we're doing a mid-season draft. Go to patreon.com/watchingtheboxes. You get exclusive content from me and Tyler, access to us to ask questions and get advice for your team, along with early access to our waiver wires, buy low, sell high shows ahead of the regular people who listen. Who we like the regular listeners. They're cool. But the Patreons, you guys are cooler. Shout out to all of them. Patreon.com/watchingtheboxes. Go check that out. If you guys are liking what you're hearing on this show, please help us out. Rate and review us on whatever you're listening to this to. Or just follow us on Twitter. You can find me at Watch the Boxes. You can find Tyler at Tyler P. Watts. And we'll be back soon with more Watching the Boxes. Thanks, everybody.